Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Imagine walking into a casino, like pulling right up to the roulette table and just casually placing $1 million bet.
Right, but you aren't actually gambling.
Exactly, because you already have, tomorrow's newspaper in your pocket. You know exactly where the ball is going to land.
Yeah, it's wild. And today we're doing a deep dive into what happens when the people who build our digital world decide to use their insider knowledge to rig the game.
And how regulators are just scrambling to stop them. Welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm Alex.
And I'm Morgan.
We are broadcasting live from the Snarful Solutions Group in Sacramento, California. And, well, we are so glad you're joining us. Today is Thursday, May 28th, 2026.
We've got a massive stack of sources to get through today.
We really do. But before we get into all that, let's give you a quick look at what's happening outside your window and in your wallet.
Yeah, definitely keep an eye on the sky if you're traveling today. We're currently tracking like 246 active U.S. weather alerts.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and 65 of those are actually over land. So it's a busy system moving through. Just make sure to check weather.gov if you have a flight.
Right. Luckily, here in Sacramento, things are, much calmer. We're looking at a chance of light rain this morning, but that should give way to partly sunny skies later in the day.
Sounds pretty nice.
It really is. It's going to be a very comfortable 74 degrees with a light breeze hovering between 2 and 7 miles per hour.
Man, that is just perfect weather for staying inside and analyzing the markets.
Yeah.
Which gave us quite the mixed bag to end the month.
They really did. So for your Morningstar financial update, the Dow Jones had a remarkably solid Wednesday. It closed up over 157 points, finishing the day at 50,644.28.
That's up over 1,200 points just for this week alone, right?
Yep, exactly. The S&P 500 couldn't quite match that momentum, though, dipping slightly by 5.65 points to settle at 7,520.36.
And the real volatility showed up in the crypto space. Yeah. I mean, Bitcoin had a much rougher Thursday morning.
Oh, yeah. It dropped nearly 1,300 points to sit at 73,035.33. Yeah. We also need to offer some brief condolences to our local baseball fans. Both the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland A's had a really rough outing yesterday.
Yeah, the Giants dropped a tight one, right?
They did, losing 2-3 against the Diamondbacks, while the A's took a heavy hit, getting completely routed 1-9 by the Mariners.
Well, the only silver lining for local sports fans is that the Kings had the night off, so your basketball heart rate can just stay steady today.
We will absolutely take a quiet night on the court. And hey, speaking of keeping your energy right, today's episode is brought to you by Strong Coffee, the premium instant coffee that tastes like a traditional brew, but is packed with 15 grams of protein, MCTs, and adaptogens like ashwagandha. Get clean, sustained energy without the jitters. Use promo code SNARFUL for 20% off at strongcoffeecompany.com.
So looking at the stack of research on the table today, there is a very clear narrative through line here.
There is. We are examining how the rules of our digital world are basically being rewritten from the ground up.
Right. We have sources covering how our smartphones are fundamentally changing, how we interact with apps.
And how federal regulators are trying to police these massive new digital betting markets. Plus, how European authorities are really cracking down on global e-commerce giants.
Let's unpack this, starting with a device that's probably sitting right next to you.
Yeah, let's do it. We're just days away from Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference on June 8th, and Bloomberg has leaked these highly detailed mock-ups of iOS 27.
And the centerpiece of this update is a total ground-up overhaul of Siri. Visually, it's completely different.
Right, that glowing rainbow border that used to take over your whole screen is just gone.
Yeah, instead, the leak shows Siri springing out of the dynamic island at the top of the screen. It has this really fluid, liquid glass appearance.
The visual change is definitely slick, but the functional change is what actually matters here.
Exactly. I mean, for over a decade, Siri has been a pretty rigid utility. You ask for a timer, you get a timer.
Right, it was basically a glorified egg timer.
Yeah, exactly. But Apple is shifting the assistant into a proactive chatbot-style interface now. You'll literally just swipe down from the top center of the screen to reveal a search or ask menu.
And it actually maintains a memory of your conversation history, right? Just like interacting with a dedicated AI agent.
It does.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. If we can just swipe down and tell Siri to do anything across any app using natural language, How does the phone not just melt?
Right, that's the big question.
I mean, fitting a massive language model into a device that thin, capable of reading your screen context, it has to drain the battery in 10 minutes.
Well, that is the exact engineering bottleneck Apple has been fighting.
Yeah.
And it explains the hardware limitation we're seeing.
Oh, because it's restricted to newer models.
Yes. This iOS 27 overhaul is reportedly going to be limited to the iPhone 15 Pro and newer. The mechanism behind it relies on small language models, or SLMs.
Running directly on the phone's neural engine.
Precisely. It handles the personal, immediate context like reading a text from your mom and pulling up her flight time without ever sending your data to the cloud.
Wow. But wait, what happens when you ask it something complex that a small on-device model just can't handle?
That is where the third-party integration comes in. The leaks actually show that Apple is building routing protocols directly into this new Siri.
So it passes the requests along.
Yeah. If a query is too complex for the on-device processor, Siri can seamlessly hand the request off to ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude.
Just depending on your preference.
Exactly.
That's wild. The leaks also show they're killing off the standalone visual intelligence app, right? Baking all that AI directly into the native camera app.
Yeah, so you can take a photo and just tell Siri, like conversationally, to crop it or alter the color.
Or even use generative AI to extend the borders of the image to fill in details that were out of the original frame.
It's incredible. It can even build complex shortcuts for you just by you describing the workflow you want.
But if Siri can just do all of this in the background, are we looking at the end of the traditional app grid home screen as we know it?
I mean, the architecture certainly points that way. Currently, the app is your destination. You know, you go to the calendar to book a meeting.
Right.
But Apple's long-term play here really turns apps into invisible services. Siri becomes the only destination you need.
It's like having a chief of staff in your pocket, routing your intentions to the right underlying software.
Perfectly said.
It's fascinating how Apple is using our personal data to predict what we need to do next on our phones.
It is.
But that naturally brings up a darker side to predictive data. What happens when someone doesn't need an AI to predict the future because they already hold the internal data on what the entire world is going to do?
That transition leads us perfectly into our second story today. Federal prosecutors in New York have just filed charges against a 36-year-old Google information security engineer.
Named Michele Spagnuolo, right?
Right. Spagnuolo is an Italian citizen who was operating out of Switzerland, and he essentially found a way to guarantee a massive payout on a prediction market platform called Polymarket.
He walked away with $1.2 million in pure profit, and he did it by betting on Google's Year in Search 2025 report.
It's crazy. To grasp the scale of the fraud here, we have to look at the underlying mechanics of Polymarket.
Okay, let's look closer at that, because I want to make sure everyone understands how this works without getting bogged down in jargon.
Yeah, cool. Good call. So Polymarket is a decentralized prediction market. Users basically wager cryptocurrency on the outcomes of real-world events.
So it isn't a traditional sports book where a house sets the odds.
Exactly. The odds are entirely crowdsourced based on where people put their money.
Wait, I need to understand the mechanics here. How does a crowdsourced market actually resolve a bet and determine the probability?
Well, it functions incredibly similarly to the stock market. But instead of buying shares in a company, you are buying shares in a specific future event.
Like, let's say there's a market on who will win an election.
Right. You can buy yes shares or no shares. If the event happens, every yes share pays out exactly $1.
Okay, so the price of the share at any given moment reflects the crowd's belief in the probability.
Spot on.
If a yes share costs 10 cents, the market is essentially saying there is a 10% chance of that outcome happening.
Precisely. And this is where Spagnuolo's scheme comes into play. Operating under the username Alpha Raccoon, he placed $2.7 million in bets.
Across 25 different outcomes related to what the #1 trending searches would be for the year.
Yeah, he bet heavily that a singer named D4VD, who had recently been in the news for a murder charge, would be the #1 searched person.
And when he bought those shares, the market priced that outcome at near zero probability.
Right, because nobody in the general public would guess that. But Spagnuolo wasn't guessing.
Because he worked in Google's information security division.
Exactly. He had direct access to the internal databases tracking the actual search volume before Google published the official report in December.
It's like playing in a high-stakes fantasy football league. But one guy in the league actually has the script for the entire season.
That is the perfect analogy. And he didn't just stop there. He also placed nearly $1 million betting against Bianca Censori, taking the top spot.
And over $600,000 betting against Pope Leo XIV.
Yep. And users on Polymarket actually noticed these massive, highly unusual wagers. In the Discord servers, where crypto traders track large whale movements, people started saying Alpha Raccoon has alpha.
Alpha being financial slang for a hidden edge.
Right. They actually started copy trading his bets because his confidence was just so unnerving.
Okay, let's look closer at the bigger picture here. With the current political environment, we know the Trump administration is actively trying to allow platforms like Polymarket to thrive.
Yes, they want the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, to treat these bets like grain or oil futures.
Rather than letting states ban them as unregulated gambling. But with the government actively trying to allow these platforms to thrive as commodities, how can everyday users trust these markets if tech employees hold all the God mode data?
Oh, the Department of Justice is stepping in aggressively for exactly that reason. If you want prediction markets to function as legitimate financial derivatives, you have to police them like Wall Street.
And this isn't an isolated incident either.
No, not at all. Just last month, a U.S. Special Forces soldier was charged for making $400,000 on Polymarket by betting on a raid in Venezuela.
The soldier was betting on a military operation that he was actively helping to plan. I mean, you literally cannot make this up.
It exposes the sheer vulnerability of these digital markets. Insider trading laws were drafted decades ago to prevent corporate executives from dumping stock before a bad earnings report.
And now federal prosecutors are having to stretch those exact same legal frameworks to cover blockchain bets made by low-level tech employees.
And military personnel. The DOJ is sending a very clear signal here. If you abuse confidential data for profit, the blockchain ledger is public, and we will trace the wallet back to you.
It's a perfect example of regulators trying to apply 20th century physical laws to 21st century digital problems.
Definitely.
And, that same tension is playing out on a massive scale over in Europe right now. But instead of policing digital betting, they are going after the wild west of global e-commerce.
Right. The European Commission has officially levied a massive €200 million fine against the Chinese retail giant Temu.
Which translates to about $232 million US, right?
Yes. The Commission claims Temu is in severe violation of the Digital Services Act, or the DSA.
The specific violations here are just alarming. European regulators conducted these mystery shopping operations and discovered something pretty awful.
Yeah, a staggering percentage of the baby toys sold on Temu contained illegal, highly dangerous amounts of chemicals.
We are talking about borates, which can cause severe reproductive harm, and phthalates, which are known hormone disruptors.
And the danger extended well beyond toys, too. They tested cheap electronic chargers purchased off the app.
And found that a massive portion of them failed fundamental safety tests.
Right, presenting immediate fire and electrocution hazards for consumers.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Isn't this kind of on the consumer?
How so?
Well, if I open an app and willingly buy an unbranded electronic charger shipped directly from an overseas warehouse for $3, shouldn't I kind of expect it to be a massive fire hazard?
I mean, logically, maybe.
So why is the EU treating the software platform like a traditional brick-and-mortar retailer? It's like a massive infinite digital dollar store. But the EU just realized nobody hired a security guard to check what's actually on the shelves.
That pushback goes straight to the heart of what the Digital Services Act is designed to change.
Okay.
Historically, tech platforms operated under a safe harbor principle. They argued they were just a neutral digital bulletin board connecting a buyer in Paris with a seller in Shenzhen.
So if the product was dangerous, that was the seller's fault, not the platform's.
Exactly.
Like how a landlord isn't responsible if a tenant runs a shady business in their building.
A great comparison. But the EU's DSA fundamentally rejects that defense for modern algorithmic marketplaces.
Right, because Temu isn't just passively hosting listings.
Exactly. The Commission argued that Temu uses highly aggressive recommendation algorithms, gamification, and paid influencers to actively push these specific products into the feeds of European families.
And the DSA dictates that if your algorithm promotes the item, you are liable for ensuring it doesn't violate basic consumer safety laws.
Yes. Now, Temu's response was fairly predictable. They called the €200 million fine disproportionate and argued that their seller vetting systems are far more robust today than they were when the investigation began.
But the EU isn't just handing them a bill, right? They are putting them on a literal clock.
They are. Temu has until late August to submit a binding action plan detailing exactly how they will prevent illegal goods from reaching the platform.
And if they don't?
If they fail to satisfy the Commission's demands, the DSA allows regulators to levy recurring fines of up to 6% of Temu's entire global revenue.
And as if billions of dollars in potential fines wasn't enough pressure, the EU is about to attack the very foundation of how these ultra-cheap platforms operate.
Yeah, this is huge. Starting in July, the European Union is implementing a flat €3 fee on all e-commerce parcels valued under €150.
So between these massive DSA fines and the new parcel fees is the era of ultra-cheap, direct-from-factory international shipping coming to an end for the everyday consumer.
It very well might be. This is a direct strike at the de minimis shipping loophole. The entire business model of Temu and competitors like Shein relies on flooding the postal system with millions of tiny individual packages.
Right, and because they are low value, they bypass traditional customs inspections and import taxes.
Exactly. So if you buy a €5 t-shirt and the EU slaps a mandatory €3 fee on the package, the razor-thin margins that make that transaction profitable completely vanish.
It really forces us to look at the hidden costs of infinite digital scale. When an app prioritizes frictionless global shipping over basic quality control, the real-world consequence falls on the parent whose child is chewing on a toxic toy.
It does. The enforcement in August will be the ultimate stress test for the Digital Services Act. We're going to see if a piece of legislation actually has the teeth to force a global logistics network to overhaul its supply chain.
Before we wrap up, a quick thanks to Old Glory, an iconic music and sports fan merch store, perfect for the techie in your life. Use promo code SNARFL for 15% off at oldglory.com.
You know, when you step back and connect the dots across Apple, Polymarket, and Temu, a very clear picture emerges. The era of the unmonitored digital frontier is closing.
It really is. Whether it's Apple completely redesigning the architecture of the iPhone to turn AI into a proactive personal assistant,
or the Justice Department fighting to ensure that billion-dollar prediction markets aren't rigged by Silicon Valley insiders.
or the European Union demanding that global software platforms take physical responsibility for the safety of the goods they promote.
Right. The digital guardrails are finally being constructed, but the speed of technological innovation means the cement never really has time to fully dry.
Which leaves you with a fairly profound question to ponder as you go about your day.
Yeah.
As these massive tech platforms become completely integrated into every facet of our daily lives, from the camera lens in our pockets to the decentralized markets where we shop and bet, are we rapidly accelerating toward a future where every single digital interaction has to be actively monitored, logged, and evaluated by either an artificial intelligence or a government regulator?
It certainly challenges the original open internet utopian vision, doesn't it?
We're here to help at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.